Hello, good morning, good evening. All right, good. Can everyone hear me? Okay, good. I think you guys can hear me. Oh, wow. I've been talking with the microphone turned off. Hey, good. Hey, guys. Good morning. Good evening. Hey, Naveen.
Hey,
Hello.
good morning.
Hey, Sanjay. All right. So, meeting minutes. Meeting minutes, announcements. Lots of good things to talk about. Meeting minutes in the chat. Hey, Jesus. We can hear you. All right, very good. You're there. I think you were standing behind a jet, an airplane at that. Oh, okay. Nice. All right. Good. We got a red hatter on the call. Look at that. Anand, you're looking just so much more healthy all around. That's great. Shubham is there. Wow. Look at this now that you guys are so popular, the trio of you guys. I'm gonna have to harass Anand after he plugs in his earphones. Good. Okay. All right. Good. Good. And Chandresh is with us, so that's great. We should be able to talk about some GKE. Actually, it's good that Jesus and Chandresh are here because uh, because part of that work, I think the two of you had looked at a little bit in the past, but I don't know that you've spoken to each other about it. So this is gonna be good. Uh, let
Hey,
me.
Nikhil will be joining in a minute. He asked me to do it.
Oh, Shubham, say that again.
Nikhil will be joining in a minute. He asked me to do it.
Oh, good. Okay, Nikhil will join, but he's not on at the moment. Okay, good. Okay. All right. So Sanjay is with us. Actually, Sanjay, have you had an opportunity to meet a lot of the other folks on the call before? If not, this is a great time to introduce briefly.
No, so this is my first time I'm attending this call. So
Oh,
I'm yet to read about read more about the product which Meshery product so that I can understand the project functionality and uh, background of the product. So I don't have much idea, to be very frank. And about me, I have more than 5 years of experience in IT and mainly in infrastructure side. So currently I'm working with Walmart Labs, where I'm managing their core Kubernetes platform, uh, where we are using Istio and other products as part of the Kubernetes platform, and we have more than 300K uh, CPU cores working as a Kubernetes cluster, which is self-managed by us. So we are managing the full cluster for our internal customers. So that is brief about me.
that's awesome. Say it again. So Sanjay, now I remember where we met, Sanjay. So this is great. I think I want to try to catch up with you after the call if we can. But let me ask you this, and I'm gonna grimace when I ask this question. But is OpenStack part of your world still? Walmart Labs was into OpenStack quite a bit in the past.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Good. Have you had? What would you say you've had more time with? It sounds like maybe OpenStack, then maybe Kubernetes, and then some time with Istio as well. Or what in what order? I guess I would ask. Or Sanjay, let me ask this: have you had most time with OpenStack as versus Kubernetes? Okay, Sanjay, I don't know if we can hear you, but very good. Anyway, great to have Sanjay on the call. Jesus is with us, and Chandresh as well. So actually, Chandresh and Jesus, let's talk about one of the issues that you guys had focused on some time ago, and it had been, well, enhancing Meshery CTL to be able to create a kube config file that was compatible with GKE. Let me bring up the issue as a refresher. And Chandresh, are you there with us? Okay. All right, so here's the link to the issue. This particular issue is about the notion that you can run Meshery and point it at the Google's Kubernetes engine, GKE, and when you do, I believe you'll need to create a kube config file such that Meshery is able to remotely interact with GKE. And there's a script that we have used to help us do that, but it's kind of a pain for Meshery users because those users might be running Meshery locally. They go to connect to GKE, and when they do, they need to authenticate in the right way. In order to do that, they need to run a short script. And what would be a lot more convenient is if Meshery CTL if they were able to run a Meshery CTL command to produce the kube config file that they needed to interface with GKE. Generate. So Chandresh, can you hear us? Are you there? Because I know this is an issue that you were thinking about looking at.
Yeah, Lee, I can hear you. I'm just trying to open the GitHub.
Oh, okay, very good. And then Jesus, I think just some while back, I think that issue was probably an interesting one to you, but I know you'd been helping in a few different areas, and probably I don't know how much time you'd actually gotten to advance this. So since you're both here, I thought it would be good to talk about this one.
Yeah, I don't advance on this issue, so I'm serious in that.
Sure. No, yeah. Okay. No problem. So
Yeah.
So let me put a link to this Meshery docs page. This docs page has a link to the script that users can run. And by the way, I'm sharing my screen, right? Oh no, I'm not. Okay, damn it. Here, this whole time I thought I was sharing my screen. Okay, All right, good. So hey, I'm probably off to a slow start this morning, but of the first thing to talk about, Chandrash, Jesus, it's when people are running against GKE, what they end up having to do is run this shell script. So if we take a look at this shell script, this shell script is included in.
Sorry, I think you are not sharing the screen.
Oh, really? Wow. Wow. Okay. Do it again. Okay. Is it coming through yet?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
See the meeting minutes? Okay. So right now I'm on the meeting minutes. Hopefully it's coming through.
For me, it's coming.
Okay. But Jesus, if you're not seeing it, I was just going to pull up.
I can see you. I can see you.
Okay, cool. So a Meshery user, as they go on, they identify that the platform that they're running is GKE. Just like I think a number of you have run Meshery against a mini cube environment, and when you do, you need to generate this mini cube config, this mini cube YAML file, and it's very similar to what users need to do for GKE. And to do that, this shell script that I wanted to open up in my browser is this shell script is within our repository. Let me pull it up. All right, so inside of the Meshery repo, I believe it's under, I'm not sure, is it under install? No. Actually, we need to clean up these folders just a little bit to make sure that we get everything under like the install folder. But it might, where, hooks, helpers, handlers, CMD, GitHub, docs. Oh, okay. For whatever reason, I think we ended up putting that shell script under the docs page, which I don't know is necessary. I don't know. It's not exactly what we would want to do. Where is that script? Pages, inputs, data, adapters. Installation. Oh, okay, here it is. Generate cube config for GKE. And so, in some respects, maybe ignoring a little bit of what it actually does, but just understanding that what we're trying to do, like the goal of this issue, is to understand that Meshery users are already interfacing with Meshery CTL, and so they use Meshery CTL like start to run Meshery. And if it so happens that they're using a GKE environment, it would be nice if they were able to do something like Meshery CTL start -p for platform GKE or something similar. Right now, I don't know that the command syntax is the most important, but the point of like basically translating this bash script into Go, that's the goal of the issue, so that people don't. Yeah. And so I think, Jesus, it sounds like that logically makes sense. Like the goal makes sense. Chandresh, does that? Are you with us? Does that make sense as well?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay.
So we don't need to have access to GKA, right? We just need to run the bash script, get the output, and do the same with Go.
Yeah, I have never run this. My expectation would be that you probably do end up, like, certainly in order to test it, that you probably do end up needing access to GKE.
Okay.
I'm looking
Yeah.
through. Okay. Has anybody? Well, I guess this is a good question. So, Chandresh, are you familiar with GKE? I mean, have you used that service before?
Yeah, I used it for a couple of times 6 months back. I need to press up my skills. How does it work?
Sure.
I need to recreate the GK cluster and see what is the use of this cell script.
Right. I'm not actually seeing where it is that you need to have access to GKE to do this. I believe like it's gonna be this service account. Like, yeah, it's interesting actually. Maybe to actually write it out, you don't need access to GKE. Certainly to test it, you do. But I believe like what you'll end up doing is like the bash script today. It looks like it accepts at least two parameters. The first parameter being the name of your account within GKE, or rather, maybe it's not the name of your account as much as it's the name of the Kubernetes account that's been created as your service account. And I think the way that GKE works is it probably automatically creates a service account for you as a user, and you can probably create as many more of those as you want. And people might, as a good practice, I would expect that they probably create a Kubernetes service account for applications like Meshery, where they acknowledge that like Meshery, they'll use Meshery against their cluster ongoing, and Meshery needs permissions to execute some of the things that it does because Meshery will create namespaces, it will deploy service meshes, and it needs permission to do that. It would do that under this account name, whatever that happens to be. And so I think, yeah, as a best practice, as a Kubernetes administrator, you would, as you decide that you're going to use a tool like Meshery, you'd go over and you'd make an account for Meshery. And so people who run this script, that they've created an account, they'll run the script, they'll include that name as the first parameter. As the second parameter, they'll assign a namespace here, but I'm not, so I don't know if this namespace is for where they want to install Meshery. Yes, that would be the case. Yes, because in this case, it's identifying what namespace they want to install Meshery into. A lot of times, Kubernetes administrators they'll end up doing, I think, a couple of different things generally. They'll either deploy one Kubernetes cluster and say, that's my management cluster. That one is going to run Meshery and Prometheus and Grafana and a bunch of other kind of management tools and things. And then they'll run different clusters that have all of their workloads. That's one way that people will do this. Another way that people will set up their Kubernetes clusters is that they'll set up different clusters. They'll have different workloads on them. And in each cluster, they might identify a namespace called management or monitoring, or as like a generic namespace to put Meshery and other tools into. Or they'll simply do something like create a namespace per application that they want to deploy. So one namespace for Grafana, one namespace for Prometheus, one namespace for Meshery. So anyway, hopefully that gives some context. So the context here is the users want to use Meshery they want to deploy Meshery into GKE. They need to run this script. We want to take this bash script, convert it to Go. Chandresh, I know this is probably one of the first places that you were looking to sink your teeth in, so to speak. And so, did you have any specific questions right now or on this one?
Not really. Recently, I have written Kubernetes Go client code that creates cron jobs, deployments, namespaces.
Nice.
So if this is the script which is doing exactly the same thing, it won't be difficult. But let me go through the script and check what it does internally.
Nice.
See, and if there is doubt, I definitely ask you.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. That's really very relevant experience. Part of what Meshery CTL does is to use the Kubernetes Go client to go, pull back some information about different objects that are deployed in Kubernetes. This particular script is similar in concept. It's slightly different in that I don't know that you'll need to use the Kubernetes Go client to perform some of these, to do what the script is doing, but that's very relevant experience. I think that's great. So nice. Okay. All right. So I guess, guys, if you guys don't have any other comments at the moment, maybe we'll go to the next topic. And good. And then whoever would like to go next, just jump in.
Lee, could you ping the link?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Sure.
I put in the meetings and in the issue also.
Oh, very good. Okay. Yeah. I'll put a link to the meeting minutes in the chat. And then in the meeting minutes, like Jesus was saying, there's a link to each of those, the issue, the docs, and the script.
I also update the issue with the script link.
Okay. Let's see. I'll just grab these real quick. I'll put them into Slack so that'll be easy. All right. Nice, good. And then, hey, Chandresh, just as on a related note, there's an Istio Go client as well that will be in this project. We'll be needing to interface with that one in a very similar way to kind of retrieve objects about Istio. So could be a good area and a good next area for you. So. Nice. Okay. Well, Napur, do you want to?
Hi everyone. I just wanted to recently I was going through the website of layer5.io, and I realized that there is a part at the bottom which Lee is presenting right now. I was feeling that the color of it is faded. I don't know, it's just me or
Oh yeah, no, you're totally
this
right.
is kind of this is very minute, but was bothering me. So I thought I should put up in a meeting today that is this how it is, or is
Yeah.
it some bug that can be fixed?
Yeah, no, that's a great. It was actually, believe it or not, it was intentional. So that what we did was each of those icons, each of those flags are SVGs, and what we did was using CSS just change the opacity, like the transparency of
Okay.
each of the SVGs to be lighter, and this is just an opinion. So Nipur, maybe we want to change this. I think my perspective at the time was, this is great functionality. It is something that people will use not very frequently, and so having the full 100% color and opacity was like almost calling too much attention to the flags, because they're very colorful and they have red and green and yellow and blue and
Yeah.
now, to your point, there's like one of the issues with having that opacity lower is I actually had to go back into the Japanese flag a little after the fact, and I ended up I think I put a border here. Let me blow it up because I know it's kind of. I think I literally put a border around the Japanese flag because otherwise all you saw was a little dot.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, if we take a look real quick, if we sort of inspect that code, here is the Japanese, if we can see the word Japanese, the Japanese flag. What we ended up doing was I used, well, I guess now I'm going to prove myself wrong. I said opacity, and technically, I guess what we were using was the CSS a filter, and setting the SVGs to a gray scale in color, and then only to like 90% transparency, or 90%. And I'm looking for where I might have put the border around the Japanese flag. I don't see it. But anyway, yeah, that's the backstory. So I don't know if
Yeah, like it's just a thought that came to my brain that maybe I did not know that it was intentional, so that just came to my brain, so I thought I should like put it up.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. You're saying, wow, that's so ugly. That couldn't possibly be intentional. What's going on?
No, no, that is not the thought. Like I thought, now I get the point that okay, if that would have been colorful, the impact for the languages would have been more, which is not the feature that would be used more often. So yeah, I get your point now.
Right. So while I'm browsing here, I'm just, oh, this is interesting. Actually, in Nupur, here's a bug, is that I set the language to Spanish just to please Jesus on the call. And then actually, as I browse to something like this performance page, this talks about the fact that Meshery is defining a new specification. It's setting a new standard for how you measure service mesh performance. The problem is it went back to English, and the reason it went back to English is because we have two types of footers on the site. This one is one, and the other one is this one. It's kind of got the curve down here and then all this. And that other one, it's missing the languages. And so anyway, a little bit of a bug. Like it's to your point, we would do well to open up a bug to ensure that that other style footer has the languages feature.
There is already a bug that have been like already open regarding footer.
Oh.
Okay, no, it's Meshery.io, not layer5.io.
Oh, right.
It's not on layer 5. Sorry, my bad.
No, but you're right. It would be nice to include the languages on Meshery.io as well. I'm assuming. I'm curious. Do any one of you on the call has anyone used those language flags? Yeah, I don't expect that they're used that often. But so Nupur, here's the regular footer, the one that's used often, and then here's this more plain footer that's actually missing the language.
Okay, so like I can work on this issue if like you want, like
That'd be
I
great.
can like open for a system to solve it.
Please, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. And then yeah, Nupur, as you're doing that, I suppose you'll be in a decent position to maybe knock that out for Meshery.io as well. And then
Yeah, sure. Like when I'll be working on this, I will try working on Meshery.io as well.
nice. Okay. And then on the topic that Anand was referring to about Meshery CTL perf, that's a great discussion. I'll note that as we're talking about it, there are two other individuals who've given some thought to it. Mayank Shah gave some thought to it. I don't think that he's done any work on it though. And the other one is Kanishkar J. It may be a good, or would be good to include in the conversations, Kanishkar. So. And then
Hello.
yep, go ahead, Anand.
I guess my voice is good.
It's low, but audible.
Okay, so I had conversation with some of my Red Hat seniors today, and one of them, I asked one of them about the flags issues.
Okay. Oh yeah, go ahead, Anand.
He got disconnected by mistake.
Oh, okay.
While he was joining, I got just when who was showing that issue with the Japanese flag. I think you set the border for the flags, but the border is set to 0.
Oh yeah, wait, Nikhil, say it again.
You set the border for the flags for the images, but the border is 0 by default, I guess. Or it is set to 0. I just inspected it and
Okay.
yeah.
Good deal. And then I know the
Now
connection.
is my voice clear?
It's okay.
I was saying that the border of the image is set to 0, I guess.
Oh.
So just now I inspected it and I found out that all the images or the border of all the images are set. That's why it's not so. So I changed it to 1 pixel, solid black, and it was quite.
Okay. Was that on layer 5?
Yeah, so layer 5 data.
Oh, okay. I see. That's why the Japanese flag has the border, or are you just talking about the notion that yeah. So I might be confusing a couple of things. So one nice thing that had happened recently on the layer 5 site, I think Ashish had jumped in to help, but it had curved the corners of these, which was nice. And then Nikhil, you're saying you added a border as well to each of the pages?
No, not the page, the flags that you were discussing right now. That Nupu got.
Oh, okay. All right, very good. I couldn't hear you. But yeah, no, that's great. Okay.
And it is set to 0, that's why the border is not visible.
Okay.
So I guess that's a typing mistake or something. So if we change the border, then
Okay.
So Nikhil, there is no border on Japanese flag as well?
No, actually the border is in all the flags, but it is set to 0. That's why we are not able to see.
Okay, okay. But we were able to see that like a very thin boundary on Japanese. Like, was that normally on
No,
the
no,
image of Japanese flag?
that's the image. That's the image itself. Not the border.
Okay, okay, got it. Thank you.
And one more thing I just noticed on the layer 5 side, the new thing that just got added, I just saw it right now, trusted by world's top companies,
Yeah,
Paper.
yeah,
There's some issue in the responsiveness of that part.
yeah. I know.
The lower the screen, it gets breaking up.
I know. You're right. Yeah, yeah. It's bad. So hopefully everyone else can see what Nikhil is talking about, which is the fact that that if you don't, if you have a not such a tall browser, you will end up with what look like fairly ugly logos. I think, and so that's a bug. I think from a left to right perspective, we're doing okay. But yeah, it needs improvement. Uh, Nikhil, that needs fixed. You're right. I had, so guys, I don't know if you know, I mean, I'm going to try to give a big community update on Friday, but I had the HashiCorp logo up here earlier. I took it down briefly yesterday to finish up conversations with them. They've been pulling layer 5 and Meshery into some of their accounts because some of those accounts, I won't say the name of the customers, but suffice to say you would know, you will recognize the names. These are very large accounts where where people already know about Meshery. They're very excited to talk to layer 5 representatives because they're excited about Meshery and they're going off and trying to decide should they use Istio or should they use Console from HashiCorp. And that's why HashiCorp is pulling in layer 5 to help with that evaluation. Because from our perspective, we just want people to be successful with adopting service meshes. And whether that's any of the meshes, it doesn't really matter. It's just whatever is the best fit for them. So that's why HashiCorp pulls us in, because they want us to help represent Console. And anyway, so that my point is the HashiCorp logo is right here. It'll be back up, I expect, later this week. I'm meeting with Docker tomorrow. I met with them last week and meeting with them again tomorrow about two things. One is about partnership with Docker. You know what, maybe I should give all this update on Friday. Just suffice to say, a lot of exciting activity. We did formalize a partnership with Citrix, and we're now publishing the one with HPE. So if you look under partners, yeah, you'll see that a couple new ones have been added. So this is good. These are people that have used Meshery. These are people that, like, Citrix is it has become a small customer of layer 5. And so while it's not much funds, those funds I anticipate that we will use to hopefully engage a few of you in what would be, stipended or paid internships. And so more than that you'll be introduced to. I mean, we've had Citrix has been on our calls quite a few times. I think a lot of you know Draj, who wrote an adapter. So anyway, I digress. Just lots of exciting things going on. Nikhil, you're right. We should probably file a bug about the logos, partner logos. And then Nikhil, there was one other item that I'm going to try to bring up now on the provider UI. I think it would be helpful maybe for everyone to weigh in on their perspective about the provider UI. I don't know if Sanjay is still on the call, so this is good. So Sanjay, maybe we're going to bring up Meshery briefly. So one, you'll get to see a little bit of what it looks like, and then two, there's an initial interface that people see, and they need to choose how they want to log into Meshery. And it would be good to hear from each of you about what you think about this interaction. So because Nikhil has been doing a good job of updating it, and he's got hopefully one more update to do. So I'm going to stop sharing there. I'm going to...
Yeah, Lee, Sanjay, I'm still there on call.
Oh, good. Okay, very good. Okay, so then Sanjay, let me bring up my terminal briefly and give you, and I guess everyone else, just a little more familiarity with Meshery. So I had the font on my terminal window really large because I was on with Kanishkar the other day, and we could only get connected on his mobile phone, so he was having to look at my screen on his mobile phone. So anyway, so on my machine, I was running Minikube. I'm going to stop running Minikube because I don't need to. On my machine, I'm also running Docker Desktop. So I'm running a single node cluster of Kubernetes under Docker Desktop. I have Meshery CTL. It's the command line interface for Meshery. I have that installed. One thing that I would note, like Chandresh, this could be or Jesus, like an easy first win with contributing to Meshery CTL. This description of what Meshery is was previously accurate. Anymore, it does a disservice to how people think of Meshery. The term playground it's accurate because people can go off and play with a bunch of service meshes, but it also has the connotation of Meshery just being a toy and not really a tool that people would use in production or to ongoing operate their environments. So we need to change this verbiage, and this would be a great first contribution to Meshery CTL. I'm going to open up a quick issue about it just after the call, and so to the extent that one of you guys want to take it on.
I can take this up.
Nice. Okay, very good. Yeah, I'll good. Okay. All right, so then back to Sanjay and others. I want to talk about the provider UI, but I was just going to say, so there's this Meshery CTL client, and to start, you can run Meshery in Kubernetes in a cluster or outside the cluster, and that Kubernetes can be running in GKE or EKS or locally. And in my case, it's running locally. What I've done is I've started Meshery. And Meshery is now running on my Docker host. So it's running in Docker containers on my local machine using Docker Compose. I also have a single node Kubernetes environment running on my local machine. And I'm just going to open up my browser here as to access the Meshery user interface. So I'm going to stop sharing my terminal and start sharing my browser. What you see inside the browser as a user when Meshery first comes up is this. Okay, and actually Sanjay, as this is like probably your first time seeing this, you'll have a great opinion and perspective about whether or not this makes a lot of sense to you. So here I'm in my browser. You pull up Meshery. You're accustomed to using software that when you go to use it, you sign in as a user because you have a profile and preferences and an account. And so seeing the fact that you might need to sign in or select, in this case, select a provider is not the weirdest thing in the world, I would expect. But this term where it says, please choose a provider to continue. I don't know that provider is
So cloud platform, if it's a infrastructure platform or creative platform will make more sense. That is my understanding.
Yeah, that's a great, that makes a ton of sense to me, that what you might expect is like, oh, okay, choose
So are we going to support the?
No, go ahead.
So, are we going to support the on-premise KTS cluster as well?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And Meshery does support that today.
Okay.
And so actually what I'm about to show you, it will be pointing to an on-premise Kubernetes system. So Nikhil and others, I think Sanjay sort of hit it on the head in terms of what people associate the term provider, what they associate that to. Sanjay was saying, hey, when I hear that term, first thought that pops into my head is what infrastructure provider do I want to connect to? And that is in fact what we're doing here. We're saying, hey, my local Meshery instance, I would like to connect you to this infrastructure provider. But the problem is this infrastructure provider, it's a Meshery persistence layer. It's not a provider like EKS, GKE, local Kubernetes, local Docker. It's not a platform. It's not like you're choosing between Minikube, blah blah blah. And so my concern is that the way that we're using provider here, while it's appropriate, without further explanation, the first time a user comes to this interface, they may not understand which one of these two they should necessarily choose. There's not a wrong choice. It's just that one of the choices they have a lesser experience with. It's not as good of an experience. And that's the default local provider. That basically lets someone sign into Meshery without, as a generic user. So they really don't have an account and really can't set and remember preferences. Moreover, if they've run a performance test and they want to recall some of their performance test results, they will get a message like this, hey, sorry, you as a generic user who didn't really sign in, we don't, Meshery has no prior history, no results to return to you. Now, had they chosen this free Meshery cloud provider, then they would be prompted to create a session. And since I had already had an active session, it just logged in my Twitter user in this case. And then it remembers, the fact that I was connected to these service meshes, that I'm using Docker Desktop, that I have in the past, well, hopefully it would remember, in the past that I've run some performance test results. It may be that my session, so this is funny. Okay, something really funny just happened. I'm going to explain this. Anyway, it would normally return all of my performance test results, and I'm going to show you that it will in a second. But did you guys see it just logged me out, right? I just lost my session, and now it's showing me a new provider UI. Do you guys see a difference?
Yes, right.
Yeah. You know what happened? This is pretty interesting. I don't know if this has ever happened to any of you, but I think that it's a good. I think it's something good to take away, and something that you will each find interesting. Okay. So what just happened is my session got killed. I got logged out, and then all of a sudden I'm seeing a new version of Meshery. that provider UI, that was a new release. Well, what happened was there's a Docker container that comes with Meshery that's called Watchtower. And this community, our community, didn't write Watchtower, but it's a common purpose utility for watching to see if any new container images land inside of Docker Hub. Because when we create Meshery containers, one for each for different types of service meshes, Istio and console and Linkerd and etc. As we make enhancements and publish new releases, if you've been a Meshery user for a while and you're just running Meshery, right now, unless you do something different, the default deployment of Meshery, it runs an instance of Watchtower. So if we were to status, so this is the status of Meshery CTL. It's running Watchtower, and Watchtower is carrying this label of being enabled. So it's sitting there checking in with Docker Hub to see if there's any newer versions, any newer images of any of these containers. Point is, there is, because I hadn't run Meshery locally for a few days. Watchtower found a new container image for Meshery, downloaded it in the background while we were all talking just now, and then swapped out that container, loaded up that new image, which is why we were seeing a new interface. So I don't know how many of you actually were aware of that before, but so Nikhil and myself had done a little bit of work on the UI to try to make it more understood for users what the difference between these two choices are. But I consider it still not very good description. It's still not easily understood that, okay, so as a user, if I choose local as the provider, I will get an ephemeral session and it's free to use, okay? If I choose Meshery Cloud, I will get a persistent session and it's free to use, okay? This just isn't a great format. And so Nikhil, I'm keep looking at you. Hopefully we'll figure out a way to, like over on the right-hand side or somewhere or down below, to help explain a bit about the difference in choice. And also my ask for everyone here on the call is, can anyone think of a better term other than provider? Maybe something else we should be using here. Something more intuitive.
Also, any suggestions if the way we can display this meeting?
Oh wait, Nikhil, say it again.
Any suggestions on how we can display that details of the providers?
Right.
Because currently I'm not able to think of anything. Only thing that is coming in my mind is displaying it below the drop down. But I don't think that will be much acceptable or right.
Right. So it's unfortunate that I was going to do a quick mock-up, but it's unfortunate that Google Hangouts only lets you share like one application at a time, or it shares the whole desktop. And but yeah, so my perspective is that of the things that we would like to tell people about the difference between these two providers, I'm going to paste it into the Meshery Slack right now. So I just pasted it. Hopefully everyone can see it in the Meshery channel. These are brief descriptions of the differences between the two choices. And I guess my thought was that as a user, that the dropdown would simply say something like Meshery Cloud, or it would say local. And when a user chose one, what would happen when they clicked is that, like, I don't know if you can see my mouse, but like right over on the right-hand side, that same set of bullet points or a small description would be visible and would change based on their selection. The other thing that I think would be helpful is this word provider, or if we change it to a different word, but irrespective, this word would be a point of interaction with the user that it would have an underline or a small little like information button next to it, that if someone clicks on it, that like using that same component, that we would describe what a provider is, something like that.
I hope I'm audible. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
audible.
Yep, go ahead, Anand.
Actually, I was not. I was going to talk about my issues.
Oh yeah.
I had gone through today. Actually, it's pretty late. So I had a conversation with a retired senior today. He had worked on similar command line tools on Go, which uses Cobra and Viper. So I talked to him, and he asked and saw the architecture of Meshery code, and he gave me some advice, like we should change the Meshery code architecture a little bit, use functions more, and he also gave me the docs, his personal docs, like, which will be helpful to make the flags and other things. So if I got some more time, then I will work on that issue, and Shubham was also eager to work on that issue. So I guess I and Shubham can together work on it, and maybe we can finish it early.
Nice, cool. Yeah, there's so that's paying off already, that you guys are getting more engaged with in your internships. And so there are two areas of enhancement for Meshery CTL. One of those is about the perf command. That would be fantastic. The other area is about, it's kind of a little bit about what we were talking about with GKE earlier. And it potentially looks something like this, like Meshery CTL start with a flag for platform to identify whether they want that person is trying to deploy to GKE or Docker or somewhere else. Or it doesn't necessarily have to be that syntax, but Anand, that's great, because between these two areas, Meshery CTL perf and Meshery CTL run or platform or start, or that there's some thought and some work that needs to go into both of those.
Actually, I had a question to that. Do we have an API where we can call, like, as I had talked few weeks ago with Girish, he told me that we would require a API so that we can make call to that API and have,
Yeah.
so that we can upload the config files and
Yep. Yeah. Very good. Great question. Yes, there is one now. It was probably done just after the time that you'd spoken with Girish. There is a sample curl call for Meshery or for invoking a performance test through Meshery's REST-based interface. And it is right here. So this is an example REST call to start a performance test. this same REST interface, on Meshery would be the interface that you would, the endpoint you would invoke from Meshery CTL. And these next parameters essentially being part of how you're describing the test itself. Because as you consider Meshery CTL perf, it may come with any number of flags, or it might simply come with the fact that people can point to a file, Meshery CTL perf, and they link to a file that describes what endpoint they want to generate load against, how much load to generate, how long to run the test. So good. So Anand, I think that's what you're looking for. That's good. Cool. Okay. All right. Well, yeah, we were just over the top of the hour. Anybody have another item they want to talk about? So Nikhil, I probably owe you a couple mock-up ideas or something on the provider UI. Chandresh, I think.
Yeah, actually, sir.
Okay. And then Chandresh, I think I owe you a new issue for updating the Meshery CTL and its kind of description.
Yeah.
All right. And do we owe anyone else something? Is everybody else okay? Nice. Okay. Good. Well, come to Friday's call. I will give a big update about things that have happened the last couple of weeks since we didn't meet last week. So with that, anybody who's got an exam, I hope that you are that you do well in the exams this week. Cool. Okay. All right. I think we're wrapped. So see you guys on Friday.
See you all.
Okay.
Thanks, Lee. Have a great day. Bye.
Okay. Bye, Sanjay. Bye, Jesus. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.